right, let's just jump right in. Pretty much everything we think we know about our ancient past, the rise and fall of great empires, the great thinkers, the entire sequence of events, it's all built on a timeline we just accept as fact. But what if that timeline is just fundamentally wrong?
What if those dark ages we all learned about never actually happened? And what if the proof isn't buried in some dusty old archive, but it's actually written up in the stars for all to see? In this explainer, we're diving into an astronomical discovery that suggests our history books might be off, not by a little, but by centuries.
So you have to ask, how do we even anchor our history in the first place? Well, for centuries, the answer has been astronomy. It's like a celestial clock. Ancient writers would record these predictable, clockwork-like eclipses right alongside major historical events, and that created what we all thought was a fixed, totally reliable timeline. So back around 1600, a scholar named Joseph Scaliger used these ancient eclipse reports to create the very historical chronology we still use today. But then, in 1970, an astronomer at Johns Hopkins, Robert R. Newton, he found a massive problem. The math just didn't work. To make the dates fit the history books, scientists had to assume that all these strange, unexplained physical anomalies happened in the past. And that discovery has now led to a really radical new proposal that our entire history needs to be redated.
And this, right here, brings us to the very heart of the problem. You see, to make the official story work with the astronomical record, scientists have to use what's basically a scientific fudge factor. A huge crack has appeared in the very foundation of our chronology.
And we're not talking about a small crack either. According to the historian Alexander Demant, the vast majority of the source material itself is just unreliable. Think about that for a second. More than 80% of the data points we use to lock in our timeline are considered imprecise or just plain wrong, even by mainstream historians.
Now, to really get this fudge factor, we need to talk about something called delta T. Simply put, the Earth's rotation is slowing down over time. It's very gradual, very predictable. Delta T is just the correction astronomers use to account for this slowdown when they're calculating things in the past. It's all based on observable, predictable physics.
Okay, so here's the kicker. Based on physics, that delta T correction should be a nice, smooth, predictable curve. But the value you need to make ancient history fit the books? It's wild. It's erratic. It assumes these physically impossible jumps in Earth's rotation with absolutely no known force to explain them. It just doesn't add up. And to really see the scale of this problem, let's look at the famous eclipse of 431 BC. Using standard physics, its path of totality, where it's darkest, it crosses the North Atlantic. But wait, the history books say it was seen in Greece. To make that work, its path has to be artificially dragged thousands of kilometers across the map. I mean, this isn't some minor tweak. It is a massive, massive shift, and its only justification is to protect the official timeline. Now, this whole problem isn't just theoretical. The source material for this explainer presents a smoking gun: the recorded eclipses of the Peloponnesian War. The great historian Thucydides, he gives us this incredible eyewitness account. He says during the first year of the war, he saw a solar eclipse, and he's super specific. The sun became a crescent, and some stars became visible. Now that right there, that's the key. To see stars during the day, you need a near total or a total solar eclipse. The official history dates this eclipse to August 3rd, 431 BC. But here's the glaring problem. Astronomical calculations, even using that weird anomalous delta T, show that the eclipse on that specific day was, at best, a partial one over Greece, less than 90% coverage. It would have felt like a really cloudy day. That's it. There is no way it was dark enough to see stars. So the official history is in direct contradiction with the eyewitness account. So what if the date is just wrong? The source material proposes a pretty radical but incredibly simple solution. Just shift the event forward in time, specifically by 1,123 years. And just look at what happens when you do that. There was an eclipse on October 5th, 693 AD that was nearly 100% total over the exact same part of Greece. It is a perfect astronomical match for what Thucydides described.
stars would have been visible. And this same analysis finds perfect matches for the other two eclipses Thucydides mentions, all shifted by that same 1,123-year period. No fudge factors, no anomalies needed, it just works.
And you have to understand, this isn't just about one war or one historian. The source we're looking at today argues that this is evidence of a massive, systemic error that's just woven into the entire fabric of our chronology.
When you apply this same method across history, a stunning pattern emerges. It's not just one mistake. You find that astronomically perfect eclipse matches suggest Greek history is misplaced by over 1,100 years. Roman history is off by almost 800. Even the early Middle Ages seem to be shifted by more than 500 years. It's a consistent, cascading error through time.
This just raises a really profound question. How could an error this big persist for so long? Well, Horst Fuhrmann, a former president of a major German historical institute, gives us a pretty chilling potential answer. He states that when a doctrine is established by those in power, the finding of truth is directed. The main concern becomes agreement with the doctrine, not whether it's actually authentic. So, could our historical timeline be less of a scientific fact and more of an enforced doctrine?
And so, here we are. We've arrived at the final verdict. We're faced with a really clear astronomical dilemma that demands we make a choice.
The source material really lays out three options. 1, we have to accept that some unknown, mysterious physical forces were acting on the Earth in the past. 2, we have to believe that the fundamental laws of physics as we know them have actually changed over time. Or there's option 3. The simplest, most logical explanation is that the official historical chronology is wrong. When you're faced with those three choices, the source material argues there's really only one that doesn't require us to completely rewrite the laws of physics itself. The problem isn't with the stars or with physics, it's with our history books. Our timeline is flawed. And this leaves us with a final, truly staggering thought. If entire centuries of our accepted history are just phantom time, invented to fill a gap that never even existed, then what does that mean for who we are? If the story we've all been told is wrong, then what is the real story of humanity?